Hey there, and welcome to the Conscious Rising. This is where we want to rise up into your own innate wisdom. Yeah, I'm Emma, podcast host, and what are we going to talk about today? Well, let's talk about conscious leadership and where is all the conscious leadership? Like, where are we in it? And don't get me wrong, I'm sure you've got some lovely people that you're working with. However, are they conscious? And here it is. Self-awareness is the key to conscious leading. Yeah? If you have low or limited self-awareness, it's going to make it really fucking hard for you to lead. I worked in a team a few years ago now in a part-time gig, and the owner and director of the company honestly was and had very limited self-awareness. His attention was inward. It was quite dysfunctional in the way that he would relate to people. So here's an example. I was working there only for about a month or a month and a half. And, I was kind of finishing up my contract, and I ended up working there for about a year longer after that. Just over a year longer after that. And he had no idea about where his team was at. He had no idea about what was being said and what was going on within the team, the disgruntled nature in which most people were working there. And you can easily palm that off and go, well, that's the other person. But he's a leader in the business. So he is creating that workplace. He's creating those things happening, right? And you can sit there all you like and say, oh, but it's a whole bunch of different things. No, I just completely disagree with you. If there is dysfunction and there is toxicity in the workplace, it's going to come from this leader. And in the business that I was working in, he had absolutely no idea what was being said within the team. He had no idea of what they felt challenged with, what they didn't like, what they loved. He really just didn't. Because what he did spend his time in is talking at people, or what he felt was direct communication, asking questions, but it was like interrogation. Yeah? And so how do you make decisions around that? Well, you can't. Because if you're just telling people, coming to someone else, so he's come to me, a temp at the time, and wanting to understand what was being said and what was going on. And, I kind of fed him a little bit and explained that, I would never say who was sharing it with me, but lots of people weren't happy with how things were being run. And they didn't think that they could come and speak to anyone about it because nothing would change. So, how did that translate and how did that communicate? Well, there was a whole bunch of decisions that were made really quickly, and to be honest, without actually any forethought or consequence, consideration. And so what happened is a lot of people left. With those decisions, though, there was, a couple of people that came in and worked a bit differently. I was one of them that was brought in, but it was still in a really dysfunctional environment. So the decisions then weren't made consciously. They weren't made with thought, because he was taking it personally. He'd personalized their experience without actually having any self-reflection and looking at himself and thinking, oh, maybe, look, what's my part in this? Yeah? And I do remember having a conversation, and his part in it, he said, was he was too nice a guy. I don't know about that, but I do know that he was constantly putting out fires. And what I mean by that was problems. He was constantly trying to fix things. And the other part was he wasn't really approachable. So it would act approachable, but it would be in the aftermath of it. It would be what happened afterwards. And, I can distinctly remember some changes being made in one of the areas of the workplace. And in the conversation was the language around, well, this is on you. This is what you asked for and this is what you're getting. It wasn't what they asked for. So they were getting something they didn't even want, because there was his lack of ability to communicate or willingness to communicate was really challenging. And why was that? Well, in order to communicate really clearly, there has to be a degree of self-awareness. And as a leader, business owner or entrepreneur, if your self-awareness is either low, as in you really don't know what the fuck's going on within you, or two, you're ignoring it, we'll get to that, then what are you going to do? Because here's the thing, and this is an absolute. The more self-awareness you have, the more choice you have. Yeah? Let's say that again. The more self-awareness you have, the more and the greater choice you have. The more self-awareness you have of self, awareness you have of self, the more awareness you can have of others. Yeah? So, and here's the thing, because if you're aware of something, whether it's happening within you, or you're aware of a situation, or whatever's going on around you, you have a choice. Yeah? But let's face it, without self-awareness and the ability to, process what you've been given, the information, as with this person that I was referring to, no ability to take on the information and actually have it relate to themselves, that they may have a part in this. So therefore, there is no choice. Everything is outside of them all the time. The power is outside of them all the time because it's everyone else's fault. No self and low self-awareness. Because if you have awareness of something, something going on within you, then you have a choice. You can take different action. You can take the same action and get the same result. But with self-awareness, you're going to start to go, I see what I'm doing here. And if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So you just heard my ball. That was just in case. I sit on a fit ball and it squeaked. And I just want to be clear about what that noise was because it hit the... Yeah, can you hear that? That's the wall. It's hitting the wall. I just wasn't sitting on it properly. I kind of leaned forward way too far. So without awareness, you have very little choice. And you will feel like life is happening to you. You're placing all the power outside of you. And I'm sure you're already starting to think of all the people in your life that might show up like this. The people that you work with, the bosses, the leaders that you work with, that have low self-awareness. And you can see are so reactive in the way that they are doing things. Now, I know coming into a business that this is challenging. It's challenging work to come into a business because what I'm asking for is not only, which is quite often what happens coming into a business, and to do this deep level self-awareness work, is that they'll just want to hand it out to all the people that work there, all the staff. And that's where they're expecting the change to come from. However, that's not going to work that way because self-awareness requires self. And so if you don't have a leader that has a high level of self-awareness, you don't have a conscious leader. You just don't. They're not going to have a lot of emotional intelligence that they're using in their life, that they're making available to themselves. They're not going to be able to receive information and feedback and suggestions from the people that are learning this stuff. Nothing is going to change. That's why I work with leaders and teams as a collective over that period of time together. And there is some individual work that goes on, because it means that everyone's moving forward together in whatever that looks like, because we're all coming from different places as well. You know, our pain points are going to be different, our self-awareness is going to be different. But what you find is the team will grow together beautifully, because there's a level of awareness. There's a level of self-awareness, and then there's a level of awareness with other as well, because with self-awareness comes awareness of others, yeah? And then you have a choice. Without awareness, no choice, or very limited choices. With awareness, you have a choice, because your decision making comes from, it's been coming from an unconscious place, and then suddenly it moves into a conscious place. And when you move that unconscious behavior pattern, story, whatever it is, right, and you move it into a conscious place that says, hey, we want to have a look at this right now, suddenly you have a huge amount of choices that goes on. So in this place that I'm talking about, there was no choice given to the staff, because when they did approach, when they did say something, it wasn't received. It wasn't received at all. It was taken in as a personal dig. Yeah? Outwardly was, oh, look, we can do better and I want all your suggestions and da-da-da. But when they were given, they were almost cut down. Because without the self-awareness, you take it personally and you start to think, well, I must be doing this. You don't even know that you're creating it. You're like, oh, well, it's the employees. They're doing something wrong. This system, this thing works. So it is really interesting when you want conscious leaders, but what are you willing to do as a business to get there? Are you just wanting to train the staff and not grow and learn yourself? Because if that's the case, then you're still limiting the people that are working with you. Yeah? Because they can only go as far as you can. And if you haven't taken yourself very far in terms of your conscious awareness, and that's really what self-awareness is, conscious awareness of self and of other. If you're not willing to have a look at how you communicate, if you're not willing to sit with your team and understand where they're coming from and ask the questions, if you're feeling like you have to put out fires all the time, then please know, drop this in right now, right? You are being reactive. If you feel like you're constantly on a state of what's next, oh my God, I've got to put this fire out, here's the next problem, that's not consciousness. That's not self-awareness. That is a reactive state of being. And I guarantee you it's tiring. I guarantee you're looking forward to your next holidays. I guarantee that you can't wait to get home. And getting to work the next day, you're feeling like, here we are again. Yeah? Groundhog Day. And it makes you not approachable as well, because if you're in a constant state of being reactive, people don't know what they're going to get from you. And look, I can share a little personal story. I will give you the cliff notes of it, because it does involve people in my life, and so I'm aware of this. But yesterday I was made aware that I was censoring myself. Now, I've censored myself for a long time, and there's lots of reasons for that. And if you go back over the podcast and have a listen, you'll uncover why my censoring and where it came from. And I'm sure many women out there, and a lot of men as well, can really relate to feeling like you have to walk on eggshells and censor and filter what you're saying. And I had an experience yesterday where I was filtering, and this was from someone I've known for a very long time in my life. They are reactive. And a very beautiful dear friend asked me, why are you filtering? Why do you need to filter because of their feelings? And how often does this happen in a workplace? Like seriously, how often does it happen in a workplace that you are dealing with unconscious people and you're reactive? Look, this may be speaking to you right now. If you are living in a reactive state and it feels like, what's next? Bring it at me. I've got this. I'm a strong, independent person. It's not consciously living. It's not with self-awareness. You're just reacting to the next thing that comes at you. Yeah? And conscious living, conscious leadership, whether that be in your personal life or business, conscious leadership comes from within, and it comes from a place of you want to respond. So there might be pauses, there might take your time, there might be not responding at times. I want to ask you now then to think about something, a situation, a person, perhaps a conversation that you're ignoring. And you think about, why are you ignoring that? Avoiding is another great way of sweeping it under the carpet. Because conscious leadership is able to have difficult conversations. Conversations that someone may have spoken to them really badly. Someone may have given them information that they didn't want. I always share openly that my kids often will tell me really tough things. And even in my friendships, like my beautiful friend yesterday saying to me and reminding me, why are you filtering? And I was like, wow, so subtle, but I was filtering. So that you're being concerned about the person's reaction because you don't know how they're going to react because they're in a reactive state. But it's not your responsibility. Yeah? And I know for me in the past, I've been in volatile relationships at work, and this was one of those places where it took me back to a place where I didn't feel safe. And so I had to work through that and realize I was, one, having trauma responses, but two, I was doing that tiptoeing filtering, and the responses that I was having weren't relevant to the situation. They had no place in there at all. There was no correlation between the two. There was very much worlds apart. And we can get caught up in that experience, can't we? So I want you to think of something that you're ignoring. Let's even talk about numbing. Are you numbing something? When you're ignoring it, what are you doing to ignore it? Like, are you sitting and watching TV? Are you drinking a lot? Eating a lot? Are you gossiping a lot? Because that's another numb. Another numb is when we go out and we gossip, because we're looking for people to support us and say what you're doing is okay. And I'm not that friend. Like, I'm not the friend that is going to go shopping with you and go, yeah, that looks amazing. I'm the friend that's going to go, if you're happy wearing that, go for it. But to me, that I think there's something better that you can be wearing. It's also a personal opinion as well. However, on the other flip side of that, if there's something I'm championing, if you come out looking like amazing in something, I'm going to be like, wear every single colour in that. Like, that is amazing. Get every single colour that looks amazing on you and have that. So same for anything else. Like, I am that cheer squad that will do that. So that's a way of ignoring. That's a way of numbing, is the gossiping. So what are you doing? What's the situation? What's the person? What's the conversation? I had a conversation recently that I was literally like, I know I'm having a bit of a tantrum. I know, because I didn't want to be, why do I have to be the grown up here? Why do I have to be the one that says something first? And I also understand this is in a masculine, feminine sense. So, that can also play into it as well. But let's just stick to, your leaders, like you leading your own life, you being conscious in your life, having self-awareness, yeah, and unlocking the conscious leader in you, yeah? So you've thought of a situation, right? You've thought of something that you're ignoring. You've thought of a person, a conversation, something that you're numbing out on, that you're ignoring, that you're like, let's sweep that under the rug, right? You've got it. You've got one at least. And I just want you to have one. And now I want you to know that this is the way through. You've allowed the truth. Just by doing that, just by saying, oh yeah, I'm ignoring this. Oh, I'm numbing it. Oh, I'm gossiping about it because I'm looking for support, to continue being childish and unconscious and not being responsible and not being accountable and, poor communication, whatever it is. Just by allowing that to rise, the truth, just by allowing the truth to sit with it, just to own it, just to say it out loud, write it down, whatever the fuck you want to do. But just that action of being truthful is you becoming conscious. I know. I mean, wow. But let's face it, I work, and this is a lot of the work that I do when I'm first working with someone. We really sit around emotional structure and being responsible for that, because it is one of the main things that comes up when I'm beginning work, men or women, is that responsibility in your emotions and your emotional structure. And it's such a big piece in the work that I do, because how many people have you met that, you just know you don't want to be around because they're not responsible for themselves. They're actually really hard work to be around. They're not approachable. And when you do say something, you're like, oh, did I say the right thing? Am I okay saying that? They're not consciously living. And please, I've been that woman. I have been that woman. I have been that woman. I was her for a long time until I decided not to be. Yeah? Because I allowed the truth. I allowed the truth to rise. I looked at it uncomfortably. Started looking at situations, things I didn't say, things I did. And that was my gateway to becoming conscious, becoming aware of myself. Because how many people do you meet like that? That are just, and I do. I particularly when I'm working in an older, people that are a little bit older than me, working into 50s, when they've not done this kind of work before, or just dipping in, it's really hard work because there's a lot of stuff that comes up that they've, numbed for and ignored for a long time. And I mean, please don't misunderstand. This work is so valuable for you to do, but it's also hard. So it doesn't really matter what age that you come at this. It's still going to be hard work. Yeah? So now you don't even need to imagine. I do want to say though, because I know for many people listening to this and just, sitting with something, it's making you feel uncomfortable that you've been ignoring. It could be something about your health, it could be your relationship, whatever it is, you've got it in your mind. And then allowing that to be the truth, allowing that to rise, to go, okay, the truth is I'm avoiding it. I don't want to have the conversation because I'm scared about their reaction. Yeah? I'm scared what it will do to the relationship if I say it. They might leave. I might be fired. If it's a boss, they, so much sensitivity around, and it's because people have a lack of self-awareness and a lack of self-responsibility. Yeah, with self-awareness comes self-responsibility. It's just part and parcel. Yeah, it's part of the package. But imagine now for a moment, you're not ignoring that. You're not avoiding it, not numbing it, not sweeping it under the rug. What would you do or say? How's it changing your thinking around it? Just imagine saying it. Imagine doing it. Just sit with that. For if you need to pause to sit with it, do that. But just sit with that for a moment. Imagine not ignoring it, that you're facing it, that you're embracing it, that you're speaking the truth of the situation. And no, it's not easy. It is not easy. I've sat with clients that have truthfully wanted to leave relationships, and I've sat with them and had to shine back and put that light in there. Well, the only reason you want to leave is because you're not willing to show up. You're not willing to do the work. You don't know what they're going to, well, they won't do it either. Okay, they may not. They may not give a shit. But if you're consciously coming at it and being self-aware about it and saying, this is my part in it, or this is how it impacted me, then you give opportunity for the truth to keep rising, yeah? And for them to grow in awareness and for you to grow in awareness. I want you to now just tap into something a bit more deeper. And I want you to tap into feeling into what's showing up for you, what's coming up for you, just thinking about doing this. Just imagine you're taking a step, you're saying the thing, you're not avoiding it anymore, you're having the tough conversation, you're actually just looking at the situation and going, okay, I need to do something about this, and this is the step that I'm going to take. What does that look like? How does that feel in your body? Because if you are uncomfortable, then it's time to move forward. It's time to move forward in your conscious. So self-awareness is the key to conscious leadership. Self-awareness is the key to conscious living. Yeah? And so the more self-aware you become, and I don't mean in a way that's judgmental. I don't mean being really hard on yourself. Like even with what's coming up right now, if there's some fear that's coming up, you're afraid to take that step, great. It's important to you. Like, fuck, why would you be doing something if it wasn't important to you, right? If there's some, oh dear, like I don't know, holy fuck, I don't know how this is going to land. I don't know what's going to show up for them. That's not your responsibility. You're right. By being truthful, by not ignoring it, by having the tough conversation, by being conscious in the way that you're approaching life, deepening your self-awareness, that person may not receive it, may not be able to. But what if they can? What if taking that one step for something you've been ignoring within yourself, around you, a habit, pattern, whatever, what if that one step changes everything? Yeah? You've got to allow yourself the opportunity to grow. The more you deepen into self-awareness, the more you stop ignoring. Imagine leaders like this. I mean, I do all the time. I love helping leaders rise into their consciousness, because here's the thing, when they do, teams come with them. People are magnetized to them. They want to work with them and for them. How many times have you changed workplaces because you have such a great leader? And I guarantee you, because they are self-aware and they are conscious and you want to be around that. Yeah? So as a leader, as a business owner and entrepreneur, are you these things? Are you in your conscious living? Or is there some work to do? You have to allow what the truth is. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I don't know, or you don't want to know, I mean, that's okay. That's where you're at. But this work isn't for you. I'll be clear. But if you're listening to this and thinking, I'd like a piece of that. I'd like to have teams like that. I'd like to have that in my business. I'd actually like to have that in my relationships. Yeah? Then this is definitely for you. And if you're a little bit like, oh, no, I'm really uncomfortable, then run on over because that's the time when you're feeling that discomfort and feeling uncomfortable about taking that step forward. That is where you need to go. Get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I talk about this all the time with clients. To celebrate it. Make it really uncomfortable and do something that's so outside of what they've known before. But then we can celebrate what's on the other side of it. So if you want to get to know what's on the other side of this, then let's do it. So self-awareness is the key to conscious leaders. If you're not consciously leading, then you are consciously limiting yourself, and you are unconsciously limiting yourself and your team. They're just the facts. Thank you for sharing your beautiful time and energy with me. And I will be here next time on The Conscious Rising. And I look forward to sharing more with you and being part of your conscious rising, because we're all in this together, so that you can truly be yourself and feel good for being who that is in the truth of who you are. Bye for now. See you next time.